thought I would start with just laying the groundwork. And I should, if everyone was in the room, we should have a bunch of heads nodding right now, because I'm going to talk about what you as small businesses have told us are major challenges and what we've seen consistently in the research. And these are actually in our studies. These are I took the top 5 that I've seen across a number of different studies. But certainly with respect to email personalization and marketing automation, a lack of resources to develop content. Everybody says, well, I know I need to personalize, I know I need to segment and target, but I just don't have time to create the content to do that and to actually engage, different target audiences. It's just really challenging for me. Lack of skilled staff. In some respects, if you're talking about marketing automation, there might be a perception that, we don't really have people to manage the tool. And we'll talk about how you can actually mitigate against that. Fragmented sales and marketing processes. I think you hear this a lot, particularly in mid-sized organizations where they have a very big sales organization and a marketing organization. Marketing is tossing leads over the wall and just kind of doing their own thing, and sales is out doing their own thing. And that poses some very difficult challenges organizationally. And a marketing automation tool is actually, it kind of bonds or glues a marketing automation or marketing and sales and aligns them so that you're working together to engage prospects. And then disparate data. For small businesses, we know that 8 out of 10 small businesses have 3 or more marketing technologies. That means you've probably got a separate web analytics tool that's collecting data. You have a separate email tool. You have a separate CRM application. They're not necessarily integrated or aligned. And I'm going to really put the foundation in place for why it's really critical to do that moving forward. And then just general poor marketing processes. They just may not have kind of a cadence or a formalized way of approaching marketing to optimize it over time. So this idea of crossing the chasm it's a concept by Jeffrey Moore, and he kind of looks at this theory that argues that there's a chasm between early adoption of a technology and the early majority, and that's that red area there. And this is also known as the technology adoption life cycle. And I think for marketing automation, as I said earlier, it's very much, for a large organization, they were the innovators. They had extra money to spend on this or more resources to be risky and take the leap. And I think, again, 5 years ago, marketing automation tools were very robust. They were early on. They were still figuring out what worked and what didn't work. And what we have now is a series of tools that can really empower a small business with ease of use, and the features and functions are robust enough. So it's really a very compelling time to look at, what are the trade-offs between email and marketing automation? Should I move there? How do you actually justify that investment? And, how will it impact your organization, or what needs to change in your organization to really leverage the tool effectively? So this chart, I know it's a bit of an eyesore, but it's essentially, when we ask organizations consistently, we hear for B2B and B2C, what is the most profitable channel? It's typically email and the website. Now, this is showing some research that I took out of the email personalization survey. So it says webinars is the second. But the point is, the profitability and the most engaging channels have become digital. And if you look at over the last 20 or 30 years, we've shifted. And it's just a very compelling, and, people talk about, well, is email going away? Is it going to be replaced by social? And I would say absolutely not. When you register for a social media site, you do it with an email address, and you get communication and notices from Facebook, for example, about someone posted your picture, and that's what keeps you engaged with that site. So those notifications make email just as relevant, the inbox just as relevant as it was yesterday, if not more so, because people are going there. And you've got to maintain, if you're going to be an organization that's engaging with customers or prospects, you've got to maintain some relevance and kind of stand out in the inbox. So from a technology adoption standpoint, this particular chart is showing the turquoise is top performers, and the light blue is small businesses, 1 to 250 employees. And the first thing I'll note here is just this use of the web analytics and email marketing for small businesses. Very prevalent in small businesses. I don't have CRM on here. It would typically be on there. But, for the most part, there are separate technologies that are managing different channels that a small business engages with. And I think it's really compelling when you look at, marketing automation, and these are top performers. They're far more likely to actually have already adopted in marketing automation. So we do see that, yes, it is more prevalent among top performers to be using a marketing automation tool because of some of the tactics that they leverage. And then when we drop down into, small business, And again, some of these top performers are made up of small businesses. So there's some very compelling reasons why you should look at this as a small business. I mean, these are organizations, and they're usually the outlier organizations. They're the ones that achieve really incredible performance because they didn't have, for the small business, using marketing automation, because they don't have bureaucratic processes in place that kind of muck up the ability to really leverage the technology the way it's made to be leveraged. So, and I think, what we're really going to focus on today is, how do we shift this curve? How do we make some justifications for a small business to say, it's compelling enough that I'd like to look at it, and address maybe some of the challenges I'm faced with the current technology stack that I've got in place that is empowering our marketing, and maybe we should move forward with something. From a top performer standpoint, this particular chart is only showing top performers, and it's showing organizations that what they're currently using from a tool standpoint. So 85% of top performers use web analytics tools, and also what they're planning on using, and that's that light blue bar. And again, in here, I think there's something that we should note, and that is, we see that 43% of top performers are using marketing automation, but there are still a tremendous number of top performers that are doing quite well without those tools, that are still achieving superior performance. And so, 41% planning on using these tools, that's pretty compelling. And I think when we really talked to these organizations and found out what's going on here, what we see is that they've typically maxed out the capabilities in an email tool. They're very advanced. They're doing personalization. They're doing trigger-based campaigns, which we'll talk about. But I think that move into the 41% of organizations that are planning on using marketing automation is going to come at the expense of email marketing tools that just aren't providing capabilities. And that's compelling, and that really makes a justification for why we should be diving into this subject today, because you see a lot of organizations that are doing really well and feeling like, yeah, we really need to take it to the next level and start using marketing automation. So, you kind of wonder, what are they seeing?